Hello and welcome back to Pantheon of the Geeks. You join us for another unboxing video. There's a lot to unbox today. So in the previous video for this, if you clicked on this, you may have watched our 8th Army unboxing. And this is the Afrika Korps unboxing. So this is like the evil version, is it?
Oh, the
baddies. The baddies. Yeah.
The baddies.
The baddies version. Okay. So the Afrika Korps, we're going to be doing those next. Obviously, there are no Nazis in this. This is all just a German army. I don't have any of the SS, so
right.
They could just be German army. So
okay,
yeah.
Fair enough.
We have the main starter set here, the big box. We have the Afrika Korps support group. We have SKF 222. I also have a couple of other bits back here. I'll show them in a second. There's that much, I can't fit it on the camera right. So if you watched the last video, this is obviously for bolt action. However, we're building these armies so that they'll fit in with chain of command, which is a Too Fat Lardies product if you haven't seen it already. It's been out for a while, a few years, but I've only just really encountered their products and I really like them, so that's why I'm doing some videos on them. So this guy, this has been sat around for over a year, maybe
yes, they have,
a year and a half actually,
yeah.
without being unboxed. So I'm glad to be getting around to do it, and then obviously there's the next hurdle which is painting it, but they do need to be stuck together before I paint them. So let's get on with that now.
Yep.
So we have the main starter set. I said we've got these two to unbox. I do have an open blitz, but I've already done that on my channel when I was doing the Blitzkrieg army. And I also have another box of just Afrika Korps troops, because I believe I will need some extras for filling up the spaces on the chain of command board. I might be wrong about that, but I've got some extras anyway. And I've also got the Western Desert Campaign book special, because I did get the book for the Western Desert Campaign, because I always intended to use these in bolt action. The chain of command's a recent adaptation, if you will. So I've got Rommel, so I'll show you Rommel, and because I got Rommel, I got rid of those to turn into Grief. So I'll unbox them. I won't be converting that fully on this video, because there's a few bits I want to do to it to turn it into Rommels. But I can show you the model out of the box. So let's get started with the main set, shall we say?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a Panzer Three.
Oops, sorry.
Yep. Let's see. There, with the obligatory blown up markers. That's the 88 flak gun. It shows who they belong to yet. That's the flak gun crew for the Afrika Korps. And then we have these soldiers, bog standard infantry. Are these all the same? Just double check. Sure. It's 2,
the same?
3, yep. 4, 5, and 6.
We've got some more things
Screws, metal, and some bases. Plenty of bases, hopefully.
Plenty of bases, I think.
There's more card in this one. Yeah, so we've got the 88 gun. We've got the Panzer Three. Let's got another card for the other versions of the Panzer as well. So I don't know which version we're building, I'll have to double check. We have the instructions for the 88. You ready?
Yeah, I just whacked my hand on the table for no apparent reason.
Making a statement. I think that's the instructions to the Panzer. If we can get them out. quite glued in. I'm not even joking. Come on. There we go. Ah, and there's the Afrika Korps underneath. Brilliant. So, as with the 8th Army one, we have all the part codes on here. So we definitely need this. And we have some suggestions on the back of how to build them. And what we're looking at is the Afrika Korps 1941 chain of command. So how we're going to be putting these together. Should still be able to use them in bolt action. But this is a downloadable document from Two Fat Lardy's blog. So if you want this yourself, you can just go and download it. And if you saw the end of the British video, I showed you these, which are a print-out version of the trades you can make. If you look on my site, you'll find sort of these predetermined trades. This one I made myself on PowerPoint, just to show how these go together as a unit. So we would need one platoon headquarters, which is a lieutenant on his own, and then we have section 1. I think there's 4 sections on this. Or is it 3 sections? I forget. I think it's 3. Yeah, 3 sections, all the same, with a leader, and then we have, I wasn't going to try and say that, was it Oberfreiter?
No, I didn't do German.
Other than Oberfuhrer, I'm not sure how you say anything. LMG team and an LMG team. So these two teams are almost the same, apart from one has one less rifleman in it. So I like saying it like that because it can get a bit confusing, at least for me, on these. So you can see here we have one lieutenant as the lieutenant headquarters. He's the entire headquarters in this army. Then we have the leader. Then we have 2 crew and 4 riflemen. The crew is of an MG34, and then we have an MG34, 2 crew and 3 riflemen there. I believe it was in the belt action, one of the belt action books, that the MG34 and the MG42, as far as the model goes, looks pretty much the same. So I believe you can have a mounted version, MG34 on a mounted tripod. The earlier version, obviously the 42 being Hitler's buzzsaw, and the one that's used in bolt action mainly, to be fair. Mm-hmm. So that'll probably be a 42 that's on these, I would imagine. The force rating for this is +2 compared to the British -1. So obviously there's a deficit of 3 there for the British, so the British will be able to take 3 other points from their other things. So that's probably a universal carrier with a brain gun, to be fair. And then all the information here and on there is for actually just playing the game. So for putting these guys together, we need to build the platoon headquarters, which is 1 guy. So before we get on to doing those, the leader will be in the support group box, this one here. Actually, before we put those together, we'll unbox this one as well and have a look at these. Because in here we have a radio operator spotter, medic, medium machine gun, medium mortar in there as well. So all these will be used in the game. This guy will end up being the overall leader. The spotter, we can use him as a forward observer, a bit like the one in the British set. So let us undo this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Getting complex now. Yeah. 2 unboxings at the same time. So I want to be stuff. Just got 2 big pieces. We have one of those, one of those, and all the models. So they're like part of the machine gun crew. He's definitely a radio operator. Also another part of the machine gun crew. Also the mortar crew, the first ones. And there as well. There he is, last guy to come out. The boss. So this will be our platoon headquarters, just this guy and his own. Start off that. So I'll clean all these up before we put them together. There's also the other parts of the guns in there as well. I'll leave them in there. And we'll sort those ones out separately. So on here we have almost like an anti-tank rifle, to be fair. You got the, have I got the thing? There we go.
So I think you've got it.
It's fine, just me. It's one of these things, it's hard to reference all these things and you get used to where they are. Yeah, anti-tank rifle. So have a look, see if there's an anti-tank rifle before I get back. But what we're going to do, we're going to cut the relevant parts off and we'll start sticking together one of these sections, and you can see how a section looks, and then I can go and build the other 3 sections off camera. So what we'll do, we'll get off, may as well take off all these parts really, and get started. So we'll see you in a moment. Okay, so we have our section commander, who's literally that body, the officer's cap and an MP40, just those 3 parts, easy to put together. Probably don't really need to show you, but I will. So we have this. One thing about these arms, sometimes you have to hold them in place, because if you leave them, they'll actually, the force will actually push them forward and away. So you're best to give this one a nice sort of hold, just so it gets in. Sometimes you even sort of like press it a bit to push them out, but don't put too much pressure on because you don't want to break it. And that's pretty much it. So I'll put a little bit more glue on there. Like so. We pretty much have a section leader there. All the section leaders will get the MP40s. Be easy to distinguish them. And then we're going to put him on the base. He's leant forward a little bit. It's fine. Okay. Then we have the LMG team for the first part. So all the LMGs in this set are pretty much from the lying down position. We don't have a alternate stood up. There are 2 versions of the legs. This is the sort of like bent leg, and then there's a straight out leg to match that leg. I'm just going to do a mix of them. This one just happens to be this one. We also have the gun. That's actually the wrong gun. That is anti-tank gun.
Oh, sorry.
It's alright.
That one.
Hey, see. Claire doesn't know our guns.
No, I don't. And that was certainly the one that you pointed to, I'm pretty sure.
I was probably pontificating about anti-tank guns at the time.
You probably were.
So this is the LMG MG34 or 42. I'm not sure which the model is actually of, because the two look very similar. Not that it matters in this case. So he's going to be leaning down, so if you put him flat on the table. He's also got a bipod, which we will attach once that's dried a little bit. And then we'll also put the other arm on and everything. But in the meantime, while that is drying, we will get on with putting this guy together. So we have a crouch guy. And I've gone with putting this on him actually. Hoping this fits over there. So he's got his rifle on his back. And then we've got him kneeling down with some binoculars. So I'm hoping this works. Might have to go a bit like that. Again, there's a pair of arms that's going to start pushing itself forward, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of a bend to try and stop that tension a little bit. Okay, put the head on there. So I've just gone for a... The Spree's actually got some nice heads on it, actually. There's three types. There's one with these helmets, these standard sort of armoured helmets, and then there's caps, the Afrika Korps wore, and there's also some sun helmets as well, which were made of cork, I believe, and not very good at defending if you're being shot, which is why I think they got the metal helmets and painted them, even though they were hotter in the desert. Then we have the other crew member. This guy is actually carrying a... This guy's actually carrying some ammunition. This way I can time out as a crew member. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to stick any extra packs on the crews. I'll leave them for the infantry. The only reason for that is literally just a visual thing for me, so I can tell the difference. I suppose you can use different helmets if you wanted. Whatever means you want to use to tell the difference. So there he is. He also happens to have a metal helmet. You know, all these guys do actually, don't they?
I think they do actually, yeah. They're in the in crowd.
They're in the I don't want to be shot in the head crowd. Head in place. Probably would have been better putting the arm on first, but I just want to make sure. Because this guy's also got a bandana over his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is he wearing a metal helmet, he's got goggles because he knows he doesn't want to get sand in his eyes, and he's got a bandana over his mouth because he doesn't want to get sand in his mouth either. So this guy's a pro. He's been here a while. Let's put that arm on, which is balanced down. And then, sorry, just to move that close to my face. Let's get the glue in the right bit. Just put the bipod on. Just glue on those bits. And we shall put him. No. Just have to do move that bipod forward a little bit. Like that. I'll wait for that to dry, then I'll stick on the cartridge. If it'll fit, it should go on about there. Because even the image on the instructions looks like it's overhanging the edge. Yeah, even that one's overhanging, so. There we go. So we'll get these guys stuck on the bases as well, and then we'll come back and we'll do the rifleman for this section. Okay, so we have our 4 guys for the first LMG team to finish it off. So we've got bodies. All the rifles on these sprues appear to be in 2 parts. So we've got one arm, and then either an arm with a hand on to go underneath, or an arm that has just no hand on to hook up. I'm also going to be attaching these backpacks on as well, on each one. So let's put this guy together as an example. So this one, this guy just needs his arm and hand all lining up underneath. There we go, like so. Now we'll give these guys the sun hats for no particular reason. Just happened to pick the sun hats off for these guys. Like that. And finally we'll put the back on. And trying to find the spot that that's going to line up with. I believe that lines up like that, I think. Or is that too high? It's too high. Yeah, it should line up like that. There we go. Just find that sweet spot on the back for the pack to go on. So that's one guy. So I'm going to put the rest of this first section's first LMG team together, and then we shall be back. Okay, so this is the LMG 1 team of the first section completed. And these are quite nice models. I do like these. Hopefully this guy's dried a bit, so you can see them all together now. They're looking really cool. I like all the options on these for like different heads and stuff. Really cool. Right, so now I need to repeat this with another LMG, another 2 crew, but this time 3 guys for section, well, team 2 of section 1. And let's do that now. And there is our second team for our first section. So section leader and the 2 teams. So now all I have to do now is repeat this another 2 times. See you in a moment. So at this point I'm just going to stop and show you where I've got up to. We've got the section 1 there, section 2 there, and a not quite complete section 3. That's because I've run out of soldiers. All these sprues are now completely soldier free. So I'm going to have to open up the second box now. So my maths didn't tell me, I did think I would need some more. So I'm going to open this bad boy up, which I think has got exactly the same contents again. If it's different I'll come back, otherwise I'll just open this up off screen. But we also put this guy on a base. This is our forward operator, radio operator. And we also put the medic from the support, HQ support, on there as well. So we've got those 2. So I will come back when I finish this, and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so there we have the 3 sections. I've also made a anti-tank crew with these 2, and a mortar crew, which is actually 3 models according to chain of command. So that is our main section done with some extras. So what we'll do now is we'll build the other metal components that came in the box. So we have these 3 guys, which I think are making up these machine gun crew. I actually have 2 sets of them, because I have one set from the starter set and another set from the HQ support type set. So I have 2 of these guys and 2 of these guys in total. So easiest way to find out who goes where. Open this up. So this would be the medium mortar set. So we have a guy with fingers in his ears. We have a guy with a case of mortars. And we have the mortar, the loader, and his arm, and the mortar stand. So that'll go on there. So we'll stick that together, because he's tying up stick together. So we'll have 2 of those, and we'll have 2 with the MMGs as well. I think we could probably use them all in chain of command. It's unlikely we'll get a chance to use them all in chain of command because of how it works, but definitely let's use them all in bolt action, so I'll put them all together. But there we go, that's the MMG. So I think that's still an MG34. It appears when I was reading up on it that the MG34 is what the Afrika Korps use most of. Even though the army did have access to an MG42, I believe it was too heavy. So they mainly used the 34s in the desert. So this is probably a tripoded version of one of those to give it more stability and more killing power, therefore. So we'll build those. I think we can use both of those in bolt action as well. I think you can have up to 2 MMG teams. So we'll build both of those, we'll build both the mortars, and then we'll return. Okay, so here we have our heavy, well, medium machine gun, should I say. Straightforward to put together. And the other one, and obviously the, I think, you know, are they heavy? I think these will be used probably off the table actually. I think they're the 81mm mortars. These guys to use in chain of command will need 2 extra guys making. At the moment I've got 3 full sprues of these left, so I'll be able to have enough models to make crew and everything. I'll probably save the last and have a look at the bolt action rules and just see if I need to make any extra NCOs, or which I think I do, because I think the teams are actually smaller in bolt action. Or I might need to make some more just standard infantry as well. Right, so we've built the metal components, with the exception of the crew for the 88 gun. We'll leave that till last, so now we'll move on to this bad boy, the Panzer Three. Now I'll have a look at the instructions for this. Okay. My word. Let's show you the sprues first. There we go. So that is sprue number 1. Maybe up a hole, lots of parts. This is numbered, which is unusual, because I don't think any of the ones I've put together recently have been numbered, but this one is numbered. And then we have the tracks on this one and everything. And we also have the actual spaced out armour. I don't know what the actual term is. It's spaced armour. It sticks onto the side if you want to. That's optional. The chain of command army list notes that the Panzer Three would be a G or a H Panzer tank. However, that's not actually an option on this one. And I thought, fair enough. That's just because obviously I'm using a different game set for a warlord miniature. However, when I looked into the old magazine here, the campaign in the Western Desert, it also says it's a G or a H Panzer Three that would have most likely been used. I'm not entirely sure what the physical difference between a G, a H and a J is, which is the earliest sort of on though, but we're probably going to have to build this bad boy as a J version of the tank, to be fair. So then we're going to go for that. As such, it'll be an earlier version, probably one of the first ones sent over to Africa, I would imagine. And therefore we're not going to have any of the spaced armour on or anything like that. It's going to be pretty much a stock based tank. In terms of chain of command, if you really want to sort of get the best bang for your buck, the spaced armour going on actually costs nothing and actually does increase your armour. So it's basically a 3 point of armour in chain of command. So if you've already got one that's got the spaced armour and extra armour on, then great, you can just use the H variant rather than the G variant. So I'll do this as a G variant, but build it as a J, hope that all makes sense, because it doesn't make any damn sense to me. But there we go. So I'll come back in a minute and we'll make a start on the Panzer Three. Okay, so just to give you guys an idea of what I was on about. Here we have the JL, L/N versions that we can all make with this. And each one is slightly different. We want to make the J1, well, I want to make the J1 should I say, which is the earliest version I think available. And this actually does involve some drilling as well, so another feature that I wasn't actually expecting. But on the tracks here, for instance, we have these little dips. You can see that on there. Those are where the drill holes are going to go. So hopefully it won't be a big issue anyway. So I'm just going to follow this for parts J mainly. Looking down here, we're going to do this bit. We're going to build the tracks. We are going to add these escape hatches on because they were on the earliest variants. We're not going to put this track under here because apparently, when I've read up on it, the Germans did put spare tracks on the top near the beginning of the war and didn't start using like underslung spare tracks until later on. So I'm going to leave that off. We need to pretty much ignore drilling holes in this stage. This would be putting on the spaced armour if you wanted to put that on. You have to drill holes to fit it in. Then we're going to be moving on to this bit again. We do need to drill some holes again. And we definitely need this part because that's for J's. And I think it's this gun here, the early gun, there, which will be the smallest of the two main guns. Right, okay, so I think I'm sorted. What I'm doing. So, starting with these parts here, we need to get off 21, 11, 5, 6, 15, 17, and we also want to get off part 2 and 6. I think most of them are on this sprue. And we also need to drill some holes, like I said. So I'm going to get all the parts off and I shall be back in a moment. Okay, so we have our parts. So starting with the main track part, which is part 5. As you can maybe see on the video, those are almost see-through, those holes. So this shouldn't be too difficult to do. And come on. There we go. Simples. Good. Right. So while we've got that, so just going to make sure those are clean. There we go. So that is for the escape hatch to go into, which we have the 2 little pegs though. So hopefully they will fit in. He says, hoping. I may have to make them a little bit bigger. It's probably slightly larger sized. Very slightly larger sized. Can use a knife for that, to be fair. Gotta do that. So that should be plenty big now. We hope. Yeah, that does fit in there. So we just need to glue that now. So hopefully that's as complicated as things get. Like that. Then we have part 6, which there are 2 little holes for this to go into. And the cog sections go towards the interior on the inside of the truck. Just put that on there. There we go. And then we have the tracks themselves, which are 4 parts. They're a little bit like building an Imperial, Games Workshop Imperial tank, all these separate pieces. Not actually quite as bad, to be honest. Let's make sure we get this one the right way around. I think that'll be right. Just trying to size up. We've got one side which is higher than the other. I imagine would be the front. I imagine would be that bit. Yeah, so that would go on there. And then we have part. Then we have part 21. Going to the back, and then this time we have this clip here. So that is pointing down, which probably would have been a better place to start. So that should fit in there like that. See, that's what happens when you guess, you get it wrong. So yeah, it must go on like that. So then we have that bit on there, that bit on there, and that means this bit would have to go that way round because we have the tab at that side, like that. Probably start with the top part, to be fair. That's what I'd recommend. So we want the tab at the back for that, and we can fit that on, and then we can fit everything else to that. The advantage down with that is it just sort of droop over the tracks quite well, so you can feel where that bit goes very easily, like that. And then I can just line everything else up to it. So let's make a start. Okay. And then next bit. Put the nice screw on there. Go in to the. Oh man. Part would advise to let it dry bit by bit in case things fall off like that, but also the part would advise me not to let it dry, just because you want to make sure everything is in place, and while it's still a little bit gooey, you can move any parts that don't quite line up. Wouldn't advise filming it while you're doing it either. That's always makes things about 20 times harder. Okay. Cool. Right, so that's how it seems to fit on best. Line that up like that. See if that last bit will fit on. That should line up with that. Make sure that's straight. That lined up perfectly as well, and then it fell off. There we go, back on. Okay. So I want to make sure that's straight. So I'm just going to balance that. Looks good. Looks okay, at least. Yeah. So now I'm going to do the other side, do that off camera, and then we can return and start on the hull. Okay, with the tracks completed, we'll move on to the hull, which is part 78. Instructions next involve further drilling. So we have this bit here that tells us to drill at the back parts. There are these two lines that go down. The holes aren't as obvious, but if you hold it away, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, you can sort of see the silhouettes of the two places where you drill the holes. And at the bottom of these oblong sections. So I'm going to go ahead and drill some holes in there. It says optionally if you want to put on the tracks at the front on there to drill the holes in there, but I won't be doing that because this is an early version. But if you're doing a later one, you want to have some spare tracks underneath, that's where you would drill into those two parts there. So I'm going to go ahead and drill those holes. I've also got off parts 38, 36, 39, 40, 75 and 60, so we can put this bit together as well. So let's get started. So with our holes drilled in what I hope to be the correct place, I'm going to attach on these tracks. So this is track B by the looks of it. So at the front we have our cog wheel, at the back is just a standard wheel, just folding the track on. So that one on that side, that one on that side. We have these three, you can see on there, these three gaps, and then we have these three lines showing us where this is going to attach. So on there, like that. Make sure we are fully down, fully on. And then the same on the other side. As always, make sure you let it dry in place. One thing I do always advise to do, but always fail to remember to do myself, is to get myself some elastic bands and actually wrap the elastic bands around, because that will hold this in place until it dries. Instead I will sit here now and hold this in place with my hand until it dries. So while that's drying, and making sure that it's lined up and not sliding out of place, which is always something that happens. There we go. We have these parts here. So we have part 60, part 75, part 40, which is there, and then we have part 39, which is this one, here on the opposite sides, 36, which is that one, sorry, 38, and then this part is 36. We are sort of in place here. Okay, so I think this is what the extra holes were for. Pull that straight down. Yeah, I'm going to have to wait for this to dry. So I'm going to wait for this to dry because I'm going to be fiddling around with the track. So we'll be back in a moment. So our tracks have dried, and I've just been taking a look at the next part. So these holes that we drilled, I've made it a little bit bigger because I'm not sure how you drill a square hole, but that's what it's asking me to do because these are square pegs. And obviously, square peg, round hole. And if you drill, you end up with a round hole. So I've just been using a knife to sort of make the hole larger so that this will fit in. So we want to stick this in, and if we're looking at the back of the tank in the picture here, it's that way up, and so we want it to go that way into those two holes that we just drilled. But what we also want to do is we want to put on these 38 and 39 parts. I think there's some sort of clamp or tow bar or something like that, and they go into these holes that are right on the edge. So what I'm going to do is put these in first, because it also is going to be a reet faff to get them in afterwards. So got a little bit of glue there, and I believe from the picture there's like a little bit coming off it and that points downwards. Yes, this is fantastic. I would advise, if you have a pair of tweezers, to use them, because there's a tiny little place to put this in. In fact, I'm going to have to do this off camera because this is going to get painful. So I'm going to put these two in, and then I'm going to fit this in, and then I'll return. So after much fiddling, we've got those parts in. We also have part 36. I don't know if that's like a real light or something. That goes in this hole here. I should do this off camera as well. There we go, we're in. And then we have this part here, which has two little prongs which attach onto these two holes, and it looks like it is pointing down. Could it be that way around? Yeah. So that should, I hope, go on here. Like that. And then we have a final piece which actually fits up here, which is part 60. And if we were upside down, this little cap part, it's a little bit like a fuel cap, I have no idea if it is or not, goes on that way around according to this. So we should put that on. So I'll glue that on and then I'll come back. Okay, so now we can move on to preparing the upper part of the tank. So we have our part 30 here. There's plenty of drill holes and stuff in here. Let's put it the right way around so we can get a look at this. So at the front there is a line, if you can see that on there, which can be drilled out. That's for the front track piece to go on. So I will be drilling that bit out. It's not a hole, it is a line, so I'll drill both sides and use a knife to cut between them. I'll do that bit off camera. There are two holes to drill for part 43 to go into, which is this hole and this hole here. Part 43 is here. That is, I cannot actually identify that as a radio mast. Do you know what that is? Part 30 that goes next to it, not a clue. Probably is it a switch for the radio mast? Probably. Something to, probably a crank for it or something. We have J, we'll need one of these drilling out. It appears to be this hole here, which is in the middle of these four. It appears to be the middle one for J. If you do an MM or N, it's this outside one, but it appears to be this one, according to this little drawing here. So those all need drilling out, which I will do off camera. And then we have these two parts here, which I think are parts for the the parts for the turret. For the J, which is the one we're building, we need to drill out and open some parts in here as well. So it is actually pointing to, I think, these parts, but I'll make sure before I drill them out, obviously. So I'm going to drill all these holes and I'll come back to you. Okay, so we've drilled all of our holes. You see that one at the front as well. It's all been drilled out. So now we're going to start sticking this together. I shall flip that around. Oh yes, and we also drilled out the holes there, the oblong holes. So we have part 64. This goes on the front. This also shows part 63, but not for the J, because it looks like extra armour basically. So we don't have that on this version. So we'll be putting that on, and then immediately we'll be putting part 41 into there. So part 41, part 41 is a machine gun, and that's going to go in the front here. I'm thinking on it, that would be very easy to knock off, so that's actually the last bit I'm going to do. Before that, I'm going to be putting on these here, so we need to put the wheels together. The wheels are currently in two parts, 48 and 49. So that's one wheel, and that will be the other wheel. So those are going to get glued together. There are simply just a little hole there at the bottom for that to glue into. Like that. That makes the wheel complete. And then that goes on this bit here, this little circular bit. There's also another one though, because there are two spare. And we also need to put on this radio mast as well. That is located where we drilled the two holes on this side. And it appears from the picture that it goes on this way around. It will be up like that. So that needs to be glued into there. I'll not do that bit on camera because that's going to be a bit fiddly to push into the holes I've created. Part 30 will go on next to that. That's the hand crank, I think. And that just sits on the hull, if you will. Don't think there is a corresponding hole for that to dip into, but we'll find if it attaches onto this once I put it on. And then we'll also put on this front piece there and make sure that fits. So I'll do these little bits off camera. I'm not going to put that gun on until I have finished everything else. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so this is where we're up to. Next on we need to put on part 69, which is going to fit into the hole we drilled and this hole here. That's what part 69 looks like. It's got a square and a round peg. One large, one small, so that should fit into there. Part 44 will fit in there next to it in these two pre-existing holes. We have part 37, which I know is the headlight, which is going to fit in there, or is a light, should I say. It's one of those lights that can only look down. This light keeps the glow to a minimum. That's going on there. Then we have two headlamps, 8 and 8, going in there and in there. And I'll attach the gun after I've done that. So let's do that bit next. Okay, so now that's dried, there we go. That is the top part of the tank. And I'm going to glue this onto the bottom part of the tank. And those two parts should just fit together quite nicely, I hope. There's a little bit of a lip on the front to line up, I think. So I'm going to glue those two pieces together. And then in the meantime we can make a start on the turret. So we have the actual gun itself. We don't use part 31 for the J, so we just need 34, 25, 24 and 59. 59 goes into the back of that. And that causes it to move up and down, I believe. So we've got to be careful which parts we glue and which we don't. I would like it to still move. So yeah, so we've got to glue the back part to that part, so this part can still move up and down. And then this is the cover, that will go over that. Then I have the smallest piece imaginable, which is that bit. Hopefully you can see it on the white background. I nearly lost this on the floor because it flicked off. Looking to find it again. There's another machine gun. That bit will sit in this hole here. And then we have this part with the 2 prongs, which will fit onto there. And then the actual cannon for the J will go into that bit there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that bit together, and the main tank, and then we'll return. Okay, so that gives us our cannon finished. So now we can move on to do the rest of the turret. So we have this part 29. We have part 3, which is the lower part of the turret. We have these parts here, which were 45 and 55, which we've put the holes in, as I said at the top. We need to put in these parts. I think they're meant to be little vision slits, to be honest. They need to go on those holes we've created. So I'm going to stick those in place. And we're going to stick the turret gun inside of here as well. So that bit goes onto there. So I'm going to attach that to that and that. And I'm also going to attach the parts onto there. Then these can slide on to the side like that. So let's get those bits stuck together. Okay, I'll do this bit off camera because we've got to make sure this thing still moves up and down and everything. But you can see it goes in that way around with the gun, the little machine gun on this side. So I'll stick that to that and we'll attach it. I think it goes that way around actually. Yeah, it does. And it also goes that way around. Like so. So I'll stick those parts together, then I'll be back. So after sticking all those parts together, we're left with the basic part of the turret. We have the storage compartment to put on the back. That consists of this plate, which should fit in there. And then we have this part here, which will attach onto that weird shaped attachment onto there. And then we have the lid, which will go on top. So we'll stick those parts together. Okay, so that leaves us with the back piece on, with the storage compartment. And then we have these side plates, and they need to go on. So we have part 47 and part 53. And those will attach. There's a little sort of square on there, and those are going to go over these squares here. So basically like that. So we shall glue those on, and then we also have the top hatch, which consists of 3 parts. We have this part here, which goes onto this part, and then we have the actual hatch. You can have that open or closed, depending on where you want the driver in. There's a separate set of doors for it being open. You don't have to cut it like the British tank, the Matilda. And there's a driver, but we're going to leave this shut. So we're going to glue that on. And the last piece, I believe, goes in this little notch at the bottom there. So these tiny, tiny bits I've left on the sprue, so I didn't lose them. They just need to be glued onto there. And then we can put the turret onto the top of the tank. So I'll come back with a finished tank. And there we have our finished tank. There are a lot of parts to the Panzer Three I wasn't expecting. There's a lot of different versions of it. If anyone's interested, this is the actual bolt action card you get for the Panzer J. These cards are pretty good for playing bolt action. So this guy needs to be painted now in desert colours. So we'll see him again at the end of the video. And I think now we'll move on to the last part of the starter set, which was the 88 gun. Now this comes with some metal crew, which I'm not adding quite yet. There we go. We have two guys there on one bit. Brilliant. And we have some other crew there as well. And we have the plastic components as well to go with that. So what I'll do, I'll get those out, show you the sprue for that. I'll tidy this stuff up and we'll be back in a second. Now the Flak Cannon, there are no rules for it in Chain of Command. So ultimately, I can't really find anything that really, unlike the British versions with the artillery that you could probably get away with. I can't really find it anything that I can sort of swap the points around with. I'll have a look online and see if I can find anything and I'll let you know. But ultimately it's probably just going to be used as an objective maybe on a map. And these guys I can probably use as extra crew for the other, apart from him, these two maybe. I can use as extra crew for one of the other guns, which is always an option. Or I can make a nice little diorama with the gun. We'll decide as we're building it. Right, so let's get the parts for that. Okay, so we have our instructions for the 88 gun, and we have 2 sprues, which are now in the packet. These are also numbered, which is quite handy. There is the other sprue with the main gun shield on. So we want to start with part 22, which is this bit here. We also want part 19, that part 2 and part 18. So I'm going to get those parts off and we can make a start. I think I'll also get parts 27, 28 ready as well. And I think there should be 2 of those, so I'll get them. Okay, so we want to put together part 19 and part 2. Just put together a bit like that. We shall leave this hole there. Part 22, the main gun, to go into, like that. Then we have part 18, which is this little handle piece, which is going to go onto there. So let's glue this part together. And while we're doing that, because I'm going to hold this while it dries, we also need to glue these 2 bits together. So this is just 27 and 28 twice. I've left them on the part so they didn't get mixed up. So we're just going to clip them off, glue them together, and come back with those. There are small little holes here and small little pegs to match them up, and they are the same, so if you did get them mixed up, as long as you glue and peg into a hole it's fine, you know. So let's get those parts together and then we'll come back. Okay, actually I've forgotten to do about that. Part 18 I haven't put on. It's alright, I can put it on now. Apart from it's really fiddly. Oh man. That's why I wanted to do this off camera. It's much easier to do if you get up close and to your face. Right, there we go. So that's in place there. So we've got these 2 parts stuck together, basically identical. Now these will go on here. They don't get glued on. There are 2 little holes there, one there, one on the other side, and they pretty much just go on there and clip in. I hope. There we go, there's 1. And there is 2, please. There we go. They're in place. Then we have part 21, which is this part here. That apparently gets stuck on to here. There. Sorry. So that gets stuck on to there. I hope that's right. I think that's right. No, I've put them on the wrong way around. What a noob. What a complete noob. Right, yeah. So hopefully these will come off now. There we go. You can tell I did a lot of research before doing this. There we go. Try again. Let's make sure we're putting it on the right way this time. So, like that. There we go. Finally. Right, so we should glue this to that. And then I'll also cut off these part 3s and I shall come back. Okay guys, sorry. Tank's making a reappearance. We have these parts 3 which are not glued on. There is 2 little pins, very, very small and tight pins that these go on to. And that is literally one of them on, and one on the other side. Just try to be careful here because I don't want to snap the pin off or anything. And there we go. So these, again not glued, now go into the ends of these. It's a very good thing I put them the right way around, like that, and that's going to go to one side for a moment. And we move on to the next phase, which is to cut off parts 24 and part 25. That'll also be on part 19, 17 and 34 off as well for now. So let's get those bits. Okay, so we've got the next parts off. So this is part 25, even though it's next to part 26 on the sprue. It's quite hard to tell the part numbers because this looks like part 25 and this looks like part 26. But it's pretty obvious visually which is which. So we're going to glue these bad boys on. And this has already fallen off once when I picked it up. So we want to add on this onto there. So that'll get glued into there. And then we should have a hole at the side. And yep, this will go into that side. So I'm not going to glue them just yet. So I want to make sure that everything lines up with what it should be lining up with. So yeah, there we go. So we've got a slidey part there, a little hole there. That should line up with this and that. So that should give you an idea. That should be stuck on there. So has this got a similar attachment? Yeah, so we have a line and a hole there, and then we have a line and part there. So I'm going to glue these onto here while attaching them into there, which is something I can't do on camera because it'd be far too fiddly. So I shall do that off camera and come back. Okay, so we're back, and we have a piece put on here and a piece put on there. But that's that together. I did have to hold this for a while to make sure it stayed in. Those two are just clipped and I didn't glue this bit. I don't know if that's going to help with it moving or hinder it, but I think that'll mean it could move a little bit while I don't want to glue it in and then snap those two plastic pieces we put in number 3s earlier. I don't really want this to move up and down when I'm using it or anything like that. That's not why I've left it open. I don't know if it does move, to be honest. But I would think if you glued that, it would stick it in place, because that would then be glued to that, and there'd be no point in this whole mechanism. So I've not glued these parts, I've only glued these bottom parts onto there. Right, so the next stage is to put 34 on, which is this piece here. This goes on this back part there, and it goes with these circular large parts pointing upwards, I believe. So it looks like it fits on there. And then we have this bit here, which is the mechanism for the seat to go on. There is just a little nodule on the end of that, and a little receptacle there. So, I'm just going to wait for that to dry before I stick this on, but I'll stick it on before I come back. And that's just the seat. And that's just got a little hole on there, which goes on that bit there, which will go on top. We're not going to do that because if I press down on that now, it's going to fall off. I really should have glued that on there first, but there's hindsight. Right, so I'm going to take off these other parts, and then we can get around to putting those on. We need number 9, 22, 36, 8 and 14, if that's not on there, sorry, 14, there, so we'll get those bits. Okay, so there we can see the seat in its place. And then we're going to move to the other side of this. And we have this piece here, rather odd looking thing. One part of it goes in there, and the other part goes in there. I may well do this on camera. Hopefully it won't be too fiddly, hopefully I won't drop it. Keep your fingers crossed, guys. So that bit should go in there, and that bit should go in there. Just push that in, make sure we're on. So one thing about these, this Panzer tank and this very fiddly parts compared to other warlord kits I've put together. We have this part here, part 22. That goes in there. There's a little peg on there again. Okay, we have part 36 that attaches onto the part we just put on before. And that's not a round peg, it's got a flat side on it, so you know which way it goes, and the hole obviously has a flat piece on it, so it goes that way around. And then we have this part 14, which is a wheel, which appears to go like so. And now we can move on to the Panzer tank. Wants to come back on the camera, wants to hog the light. And then we put on these parts, so I'll cut the rest of these off and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I'm going to start with part 7. I'm going to do what I didn't do before and just attach the seat first. And then we're going to attach the rest. So part 14, that is going to go on this part here. Doesn't matter which way these go, they're just handles at the end of the day, so you can have them in any position. Part 35 will attach onto here. Again, that's a D-shaped adapter, and would have been better going on before I put the handle on, to be fair. So now I'm going to need a pair of tweezers because everything's getting a little bit cramped on there. Yeah, definitely. Right, I'm going to look at my tweezers and put that on. And that's also got a D-shaped adaptation, and it goes in the last spot there. So let me put those on and then I'll come back. So for much fiddling, there we go. So the seat's the last thing to go on, so let's put that in place. It goes where it appears that way around. And even this has turned out to be fiddly, even though it's right in the open. I think I actually made the right choice last time to put the actual seat part on afterwards. Right, I think we're on now. Okay, so I'm going to be up to one side, let it set, make sure that seat's actually level, because it looks like it's dropping down at the moment, so make sure that's level. And then we'll come back and we can start on the base with part 15, 32, 4, 2 4s actually, and 2 29s. Okay guys, so we're back, and what we want to do is attach this part here onto part 4, and it goes underneath there, and that will just glue on to there. Oh, it does glue on. Okay. And then we have the other part here. Like so. There we go. So what we're going to do is, once those are dried, I'm just going to run the line mould scraper across that. It's probably in well enough that I can do that. When you do this, always put your thumb on a part, but not this part, because that is going to break if I do it that way. Perfectly safe. Obviously that's not sharp, it's a blunt edge. You can also just use a little file if you feel that the file, if you feel this bit's too much, you could use a file on that instead. But if it's just a little bit you need to scrape off, line scraper is great for that. Let's make sure that one's alright. This one is about the same. The only reason I'm taking care of this bit is because I'll never be able to get to this after I've glued it together. Right. So we have two of these are identical, so it doesn't matter which one you pick. One is going to go into here. The other is going to go into here. I think I put that the wrong way around actually. Yeah. So there's a, no, I put it right around. I was right first time. Okay, yeah, because it shows these pointy bits as pointing upwards. And then we have this. Now, I have no intention of really moving these, even though it says not to glue them. But what we are going to do is just follow the steps on this. And we have 4 holes there. There's only 2 corresponding holes there. But these are the parts that it's going to act as like a hinge. I'm not sure if hinge is the right word for what this is. There we go. You see that is in there, and that is in there, and everything seems to fit in quite well. And that is good enough. I presume this would be to pull these up. I'm not going to, because I'm pretty sure they just flip out, to be honest. If you wanted to make these really secure, you'd have to use glue around these parts, but not on those parts. Very difficult to do. I'd probably use a toothpick or something just to like dab it on. If I wanted to have these as really movable, I'm probably never going to move them. So I'm quite happy with that. There we go. Right, so now we need part 30, 13, 11, 11 and 30. Yeah, so 2 sets of 13, 2 sets of 11 and a 30. Okay, so we're back. So we're going to start from this side. You can tell which side this is. This bit's flat here, and then because these 2 bits look very similar, you're looking for the side that doesn't have the flat bit on but has these 2 little pegs, because that's where these bits are going. So we should put those bits on first. Like that and like that, and then we have the wheels, handles, turny things. Like that, and then we have part 30, which sits in here. A little bit of glue on there. It's not a particularly heavy piece, and it goes on there. Like that, with this little majigger that comes out the side, on this side. Whatever the majigger actually is, MacGuffin, whatever you want to call it. There it goes. So, we might have made it to the last page, guys. So now we want these 4 31s crossing off, 12 and a 16, and then we want a 6 and a 5 and a 24, which is the front plate. So let's get all these final bits off. Okay, so we have these feet sections, these part 31s, they all go in these end holes there. There's actually another hole in there, but ignoring that, it goes in the end, very end one. Now it looks like the little cutout section that's in that square goes facing outwards, so each one should clip onto there. I'll do that off camera because that's pretty straightforward. We also have these 2 pieces, part 16 and part 12. Now part 12 appears to go on this underside part of the gun there. Obviously that's going to be involved in how it turns, if you want it to turn. And then we have this part here, which goes on there. So we glued those parts together. it should create a plug. Should be enough glue left on that bit. That should create like a plug, if you will, which will then fit into there. So I'm going to let that dry before I put it in. Now I'm going to stick these feet on here and I should be back in a second. Okay, so we've got to the part where we put the gun shield on. And at this point, you're not too confident about painting things, it might be worthwhile leaving these 3 parts separate to paint. I'm going to put the gun shield on mine and I'm going to just leave the bottom part separate in case you want to turn it or whatever. It's easier to paint too. So the gun shield attaches by 2 points, one which is just for show and one which is for holding it in place. So we're going to attach it to the holding it in place part first, which is these 2 little grooves in there underneath the large gun hole part, and they'll attach onto these flat bits here. So that will go over there and onto there. Now because this is so close to this bit and this bit, I'm going to do this bit off camera. But then I'll come back and we'll attach on these really fiddly parts of 5 and 6. Right, so we have this on here now. It's still a little bit wobbly, which is fine, because what we're going to do now, we still need to possibly be a bit gooey if we've got it in the wrong place so we can move it. So we're going to put a little bit of glue on there, a little bit on there, a little bit on there. And then we need to very fiddly attach this bit onto there and actually put it the right way around. That'd be great. And then this is where a pair of tweezers would come in very handy. Just use this. And then what you're trying to do is get that to stay where that is and that to go in there in the same place. And that's where you need to find out that your shield's a bit too far one way or another. So the shield should be around where it is now. And then we just need to flick that into there. Come on. No, you want to. I'll do this off camera because we're going to be here a while. So there we go. That didn't actually take as long as I thought it was going to. Once I got it near to my face and I could see what I was doing. Right. So then we have the other side to do, which I will do off camera because this one's even more complicated. Because on this one, the attachment is there. On this one, what I'll actually going to try and do, which is probably what I should have done the first one, is attach it to that bit first and let it drop into place. So I'll give that a go and see if that was better or not. Okay, so it turns out lining it up with that bit first was the right decision. So line it up there, then line it up with the shield. Same on this side. So it's actually easier because if you need to thread it between that bit and that bit, but you can push it into this part and use this bit to rest it on while you push it into the other part. So it actually came in handy that having the other part there. Anyway, so we're done. And that should go onto there. And there we have Flak 88, 8.8. And we have the crew. We have this guy, who's not going to be stuck on until I've painted this. And once it's done, I think he goes on this seat, to be fair. It looks like he sits on that. But I'm going to worry about that after he's painted. don't think you'd fit on the other seat, to be fair. I might be wrong about that. Nope, I'm right. So on the picture, you can see he's actually on this side. And he goes there. And hopefully mine will look something like this after I've painted it. Because I'm going for the, obviously, Afrika Korps look. Brilliant. Okay, so that is everything from the starter set and the HQ support set done. Brilliant. So now we can move on to the other boxes even that I have left. So if you'd like to vacate the premises, this flak gun. I still need to see if there's any rules for that. I will look. I promise before the end of the video see if there is anything. And we have the SDKFZ222, which is like a small scout vehicle type thing. So I'm going to stick that together next. So, this is your box. Those are the instructions. So I'm hoping this is going to be really simple. As a change of pace, that'd be nice. And we have our card. And we have resin kits. It's resin, what's up? So we've never used resin before. We deal with resin. It can be covered in dust, or it can be covered in oil. Oil is the worst of the two. Dust is easy. This is not that. Let's have a look. We have oily resin. I can actually feel how oily that is. No joke at all. Some very oily resin. So when I said this was going to be easy, that was a joke. You can actually see it on my hand glistening. That's how oily this is. Yeah, you can smell it too. It stinks. So what we need to do, right? So what we have here, extremely oily. I haven't had oily resin like this in since before you were born. Probably that's true. If anybody's watching this, let's have a look. The resin looks okay. There are some parts that have to come off. These parts are casting parts. They all need to come off. These two bits need to be hacked off. This is so oily. Not joking. Don't know why I'm whispering either. Those bits need to come off. I'm hoping that these holes are for a purpose. There are some headlights and a bumper that needs to go on. So I think that's what those holes are for. Thankfully. Not that they'd be too hard to fill, to be fair. I've seen far worse resin holes than that. In fact, there's like one just there. So yeah, this is a different skill set from putting together a plastic model, which is fiddly. This is a case of a lot of cleanup. So once we've taken off all these bits, what I'm going to do, literally, is soak this thing in what we would call fairy liquid. I don't know where you are in the world. Washing up liquid. Hot water to start with. Not boiling, because that will bend the plastic. Just warm, hot. Not so like out of the tap. Straight out of the tap. If I wanted to bend it, I'd use the kettle and boil some water. That's always fun. Let's get that bit out of there as well. So that's what's going to happen here, and I'm going to wash my hand as well because that's so oily. I swear the last thing I had that was this oily was my Warhound Titan from Forge World. That thing was that oily. Sounds like a start of a joke. It was so oily, but it was literally so oily I had to paint it 3 times because I had not learned my lesson. So this, I'm going to leave it to soak overnight, and then we'll come back to it. And because of that, what I'm actually going to do is move this unboxing ahead even further, because I have another resin model here, and I'm going to be soaking things. I may as well do them together. Yeah. It's really bad actually. It's leaking everywhere. We have. Can't even open it. Can't even hold it. My hands are that oily now. Ugh, it's like having olive oil on your hands. Come on. Crikey. Right, so we have a load of metal components. No problem there. We'll just clean these up off the sprues. Great stuff, and they'll be good to go. The wheels look nice. There we go. Yes. All metal components look really nicely cast. Shouldn't be a problem with that. Why I'm double checking them is just in case I have to contact Warlord before finishing this video. So, in the spirit of opening things up, our resin, we'll also open up this bad boy, which was the other resin model, which is the SD.KFZ 250/1 new. This is the one I'll be using for Rommel's transport, and we may as well open this up just in case it is just as oily, because this is going to have to soak for a while, I'm afraid. So there's going to be a bit of a gap in my video now, which is really annoying because I wanted to get on with it. Right. We do have a nice card for it as well. There it is, and the rules for using it in bolt action. Always useful, because obviously I am building these for use in bolt action, secondly to use in chain of command. Now the 222, this bad boy, oily bad boy. I mean, in terms of an oil shortage, it's all stored in there, I think. You can use that in chain of command. There's rules for it and everything. Even in a normal chain of command, this can also be taken in the Afrika Korps list. It's great. This one, no, it isn't. So this is either going to be an objective in the games, or I'll just be saving it for bolt action. We have our metal components there. We have already covered in oil, so it's really hard to tell now. And this is oily too. This is not as bad. Really, this is still off that one. This isn't as bad at all. This is more what you'd expect when you pull some resin out. You can actually see the difference, to be fair. If you look at that, you can see all the mottled effect in this. This is a sign of a not completely well mixed resin. This is what you're looking for off resin, if you've never used resin before. When you pull it out, it's this is dry, this isn't oily. Again, the only oil on this is off my hands already. Checking it out, it looks pretty straight. A couple of bits need filing, those bits need cutting. See, this is nice, this is what you want from resin. Also some resin stacks. Check those out, those have been cast separately, what I can tell, easily, because again it's a different colour. This is lighter than this. These have all been cast separately, but the casting on this is also not too bad. There's a few bits there that'll need to come off, but they're at the top, I believe. These are going that way, or going the other way. At the top of the bottom. Oh, at the bottom, even better. So they're going to be in the ground, so you're not going to see that anyway. That's the part you're going to see. That works for me. I'm quite happy with that. Yeah, right. So these, even though they're fine, I'm still going to wash them because there may be some residuals, definitely oil off my hands on this, so I want to get rid of that. So there's going to be some residual oil probably still in this, and anything off the mould as well, because you get oils and liquid off the actual mould, which can sometimes affect when we come to spray it and paint it afterwards. So it's your best bet is hot soapy water, soap being some sort of liquid dishwasher type thing. You don't want it to be too abrasive, is the word I'm looking for. Yeah, I'm so surprised at that. Well, we'll see what it's like after I've given it a wash. I'll have a better indication of whether it's still oily or not. If it's still as oily as this after I've washed it, I'm gonna have to contact warlords because I will not make that mistake again, as I did with the Warhammer Titan, even on a small model like this. So let me get these washed, so the next time you see me I'll have a conclusion as to whether I'm happy to go ahead or not with this. But for me that might be a couple of days, for you only a moment. Okay guys, so didn't quite have to leave it as long as I thought. It's been left for a few hours though. And I give it a very good scrub. As you can see, it's lost a lot of that swirliness that was on there. It doesn't feel anywhere near as, well, it feels dry now. It doesn't feel oily now. The front of that though, you can tell that there's been a problem with the mix because you can see the different colours on there still. It looks shiny, but it doesn't feel oily. So at this stage I'm quite happy with it. Fingers crossed that it's managed to seep out all that oil that was in there. Now it's got a light colour. I think that's a good indication that it's okay, we hope. So anyway, I've also tidied it up. I've filed off some of the, that's why it's so light. I've filed off some of the bits that weren't so good and cut off some of the other bits. It's not too bad actually, as far as that's concerned, for a big chunk of resin. I'm pretty much ready to stick it together now, to be fair. So I've cut off all of the metal parts, and I may as well make a start with the wheels so I can get it levelled off and make sure it's nice and level, not rocking all over the place. So the first thing we'll do is stick the wheels on. They are literally got these U-shaped attachments, and they literally go over these square bits here. And that's it, really. Nothing more to say than that. I'll be using super glue because it's resin and metal. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this off camera because it should be straightforward, and I can level it off on the table and then make sure it's ready to be for the rest to be added on. Okay, so next up we'll do the turret while this is fully drying. So the turret consists of 4 pieces. We have this part here, which is the part that goes straight on. I'm not going to glue that on because it's easier to paint separately and it allows me to turn the turret afterwards. If you want to add some security to that, you could put a big magnet in there. There's loads of room. Bit of green stuff, magnet on this. You could do that if you wanted to, but it does sit in quite nice, and it's quite heavy because it's a metal turret, so it's probably not going to fall off or anything. And it will get heavier because we're putting more metal on. So this consists of 4 pieces. We have the gun, which sits in there and comes out these front hatches, and then we have these 2 hatches here, which go over the top. Now I believe that you could have this open with gunners in and stuff like that, but I'm not sure where you'd fit them, to be honest. We do have a gap at the back, that's on purpose. So literally we're just going to glue this together like this. It does obscure some of the detail on the gun, so if you're worried about that, you could just always paint this first and then glue it together. But as you're not going to see it anyway, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm going to just go ahead and glue this together. So I'm going to do that and then I'll be back. So that's our turret finished. And as I was putting it on, I did notice it is on a hinge. So you could always use the depth of this to sit a guy in, like he's firing up, like something up there. But again, I'm quite happy with this how it is. So the last pieces to go on are what these holes at the front are for. We have these 2 holes for the bumper, wherever this metal bar is, and then we have the headlights which go into these side holes. These side holes, this one was actually filled with mould as well, and that's the mould from the actual casting of it, not like mould that grows. So I had to dig all that out as well. So yeah, there was some pretty bad bits on this, to be fair, but I think it's looking alright now. So we'll glue these on, glue that on, and we've got a finished model. So there is our finished model. Looking pretty good actually. So the proof will be when I paint it to make sure that that resin has dried out. I think it has, it looks good, so I'll let you know in the future if it hasn't. Certainly let Warlord know if it hasn't. Right, so we'll have a quick look at this, the unplanned unboxing part. So this resin's perfect, nice and dry, nice solid colour, no problems with that whatsoever. This resin's nice as well, all good. So basically what we want to do now is we have the metal components too. And what I'm going to do with this, I am literally not going to stick these parts on because I'm not sure there's room once I put Rommel in. But I'll take this opportunity to show you the Rommel model since it's sat here. And I don't know whether I'm actually going to put him in it. I probably will. Or magnetise him to it. I could probably do something with his base to do that. Although he is in an interesting sort of stood up position. He was still pretty good from within. But there is the Rommel model. It looks pretty good actually. I can imagine it still in there. To be fair, maybe a little tall. Probably have to. I might have to carve that out if I was going to do that. I'm not decided if I want to do that yet or not. You can also have him in the picture I've seen of him. He's actually stood like looking at the side, so we can get rid of that seat entirely. I'll make a decision, but for now, if I'm carving that out, I don't really want to put the tracks on and everything. For now, what I am going to do is, I might just have him separate. It's such a cool model, I don't want to hide it away. Yeah, I'm going to do them separate. I'm going to have this as a separate model. I've decided. They're on camera, live, so this will just be a separate model. Because you make a great general in bolt action, so it's going to be great. Okay, so we'll stick this bad boy together now. So we have the metal components, which are these two wheels. That should stick onto there, and that one should go onto there, making the front axle. And we also need to stick on the tracks, which I think go that way around. I'll just check on the box, actually. It's the only reference I've really got to hand. Yeah, so there's like a gap. Yeah. You can see that the gap is at the front, and then there's sort of these overlapping wheels. So it would go on that way around, which is good because that fits quite well. So let's glue this together. Okay, so for now we've added all those parts on. We've also added the gun shield on. The gun shield, you can either have the guy in there firing, or you can put in one of the two guns you got with it, so it's just empty. The second gun, that goes on the back here. I'm not sticking that on for now, because I'm going to add some more flair to this vehicle to make it look a bit more like Grief, and then if I do want to decide to paint it like Rommel's Transport, I can do. There we go, that's it for now. That's what it kind of looks like if you got one of these yourself. Pretty cool. And you do get the little card and everything with it. Let me show you those, did I? You do get your little cards with it. German armoured half-track. And what it can do on the back. These cards are really cool for battle action, by the way. It's a time saver than flicking through the book. And there is the 222. There we go. So I think now we'll move to the end of the video where I can show you all this together like I did with the British set out, so I can give you a better idea of what these would cost in an army, etc. So I'll see you again in a moment. Okay guys, so we're back. Hopefully all that's on the camera pretty much. It matters anyway. So we have our main platoon here, which is our +2 rated Afrika Korps 1941. So we have it set up into the 3 different sections that you can see there, with its Platoon Headquarters. And then we've got the extras at the top, just like before with the British section. So we have potentially We have a medical orderly, and we have an adjutant, can't even say that word now, again. And then I've also got Rommel there looking over it. You could maybe use him as the same, I don't know. Or use him as your platoon headquarters. It'd look alright, but he's a bit higher than a lieutenant, so, you know, might save him for bolt action to be fair. And now he can get Monty as well. I might save those two for bolt action, just for fun. Above then, on next to them, so list 2, we have the Panzer Boucher, I don't know how you say it, anti-tank gun. The PV-38/39, it's a 2-man team. We have a 5-inch mortar, 3-man team. List 3 I have nothing. I do have enough models I could potentially build a sniper team though. I might do that. We shall see. For list 4, we've got the SDKFZ 222 armoured car, so if we want to spend 4 points we can buy that thing. An abundance of options in list 4 because we've also got at least 3 things that could represent the forward observatory. So observatory, what am I talking about? Observer. So we have the 2 actual mortar teams, and we also have a radio user there that could pass as that as well. Sorry for the creaky floorboards as well. It's just where I'm stood. Apologies. And we also have an MG34 on tripod. And I didn't build any extra crew for those yet. So, I said I've got plenty of models left over, or I can just use the metal crew, which are just off the side there for the Flak 88, which isn't on this list. So then lastly, for 5 points, we have the Panzer Three. G or H, in this case it's a G, I hope. The H is more armoured, so I've got the less armoured version, which is actually a J, but never mind. And then just in the top corner you see the Opal bullets, but all that's going to be used for an objective, or I'll be using it for bolt action. To be fair, I'll probably need to get about 3 or 4 more of those. I'm going to use them in bolt action. So there we go, so that's the army for chain of command. And now I need to get it painted. Oh great. But yeah, I'm looking forward to actually painting them, so we'll see how that goes. And hopefully the next time you guys see them in battle, facing off against the 8th Army, on the other side of this, I'll knock them off video, this double-sided map with desert on the other side. It's a cool map. But hopefully that's the next time we'll see them. So, stay tuned, please like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.